From the Oklahoma newsroom, this is an OSU update. I'm Jenny Carlson. The Cowboys have started their fall camp, and a position that has become something of a question mark after an injury in the offseason to Marcell Ateman is the wide receiver position. Kyle Fredrickson joins us on the phone. And Kyle, I say somewhat of a question because you still have James Washington. You still have a lot of guys that have played a lot of snaps, but who steps into that Ateman spot in the interim before he's back healthy, which we expect to be sometime after the first month of games? What's your best guess about who sort of emerges as a potential replacement in his absence?
Well, Juwan Seals seems like the natural fit. He's a fifth-year senior, understands this offense in and out, was a guy who contributed very early on in his career and projected as really one of the next great dominant OSU receivers. You know, he's had some issues with getting in trouble over the years, several suspensions, and I think in a lot of ways that's maybe hurt his stock on the depth chart. But following this Ateman news, I don't think there's anyone else on the roster right now who's as adjusted to make that leap and to become that number two guy across from James Washington, like Seals is. That being said, there's other guys on the roster too who certainly can make their case. The first guy who comes to mind being Chris Lacey, who enters now his junior year as another long physical receiver who's kind of fit that same mold that OSU has developed within this group. Now, be it there's not one other guy in the roster who could replicate Ateman's size, being he's a 6'4" guy out there. But there's plenty of physical leapers, guys who've shown in the past that they have the skill set to thrive within this offense. So the Cowboys are lucky to have a lot of depth and to have a lot of options. But certainly they're hoping that Ateman returns sooner than later from an injury that might keep him out until October. So lots of contenders, but fall camp will kind of help sort some of that out before the first game.
Kyle, the question of where the passes go and who is maybe catching, do we see maybe a little bit more to James Washington, maybe even the use of Cowboy back, that position, that hybrid fullback tight end spot, maybe some guys catching balls out of the backfield? Are those the type of things that could help make up for the absence of a Marcell Ateman?
I would think so. I think if anything, maybe this shines a brighter spotlight on James Washington on the edge. We saw him have a 3-game explosion last year, kind of capped with that Texas Tech performance where he had, I think, 3 touchdowns. And teams really started to lock down. His numbers weren't what they were in the final 3 games, and OSU had to figure out a way to move the ball and be productive. Lucky for them, they have a lot of options at receiver, and like you said, getting creative, using Cowboy backs, that's something we've seen out of this offense in the past. Able to win 10 games by really using a lot of smoke and mirrors. So I expect that to continue, especially with the development of the Cowboy backs being this the second year with Coach McAdoo back there with those guys, really developing some big dudes into some versatile athletes. And when you can line one of those guys out at receiver, and that can really throw a defense off balance. So they've got the different options to make it work, but certainly James Washington, more pressure on him to make a lot of plays.
We'll obviously be monitoring the development of that wide receiver position and the injury to Marcell Ateman as he comes back from that injury. Be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.